The sun rose over New York City, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. John Smith, our regular office worker, yawned as he waited for the subway. He checked his phone, scrolling through the usual news. Nothing exciting caught his eye. It was just another normal day. Or so he thought. Halfway across the world, in a small village in India, young Priya was helping her mother in their vegetable garden. The air was thick with the scent of fresh soil and ripening tomatoes. Priya wiped sweat from her brow. Looking up at the clear blue sky, she smiled, enjoying the peaceful moment. Neither John nor Priya knew that high above them, beyond Earth's atmosphere, something extraordinary was happening. In the International Space Station, astronaut Sarah Chen floated towards the observation window. She always loved this part of her day, watching Earth spin slowly beneath her. But today, something was different. Sarah's eyes widened as she saw a strange shape appear in the distance. It wasn't like any satellite or space debris she had ever seen. "Houston, are you seeing this?" Sarah's voice crackled over the radio. Back on Earth, in the NASA control room, screens lit up with warnings. Technicians scrambled to their stations, trying to make sense of the data flooding in. The room buzzed with nervous energy as more and more unusual objects appeared on their radars. Dr. James Walker, the lead scientist, stared at the main screen in disbelief. "This can't be right," he muttered, adjusting his glasses, but the evidence was clear. These weren't asteroids or comets. They were moving with purpose, against the laws of physics as humans understood them. In the White House, President Emily Carter was woken by an urgent call. Her advisors rushed to brief her on the situation. The atmosphere in the Oval Office was tense as they discussed the implications of what they were seeing. "Madam President, we're detecting similar reports from space agencies around the world," her chief of staff reported. "The Chinese, Russians, Europeans, they're all seeing the same thing." President Carter's face was grim. "Get me the Secretary General of the UN on the line. We need to coordinate our response." As dawn broke over different parts of the world, people began to notice something strange in the sky. In London, a group of teenagers on their way to school pointed at the unusual lights moving across the morning sky. In Rio de Janeiro, beachgoers stopped to stare at the shimmering objects that seemed to hover over the ocean. Social media exploded with photos and videos of the phenomenon. #StrangeSkis and #AlienSarahHere started trending worldwide. Conspiracy theorists had a field day, their wildest dreams seemingly coming true. In a small observatory in Chile, amateur astronomer Miguel Fernandez couldn't believe what he was seeing through his telescope. He had always dreamed of discovering something new in the night sky, but this was beyond his wildest imagination. With shaking hands, he reached for his phone to call his colleagues. As the day wore on, governments around the world struggled to maintain calm. News channels were filled with speculation and debate. Scientists were called in to offer explanations, but none could provide a satisfactory answer. In New Delhi, the Indian government called an emergency meeting. Prime Minister Rajesh Patel listened intently as his top scientists and military advisors presented their findings. The objects in the sky were unlike anything they had ever encountered. "Sir," one of the generals said, "we've tried to establish contact, but there's been no response. These visitors, whoever they are talking to us." Prime Minister Patel nodded gravely. "Keep trying, and increase our defense readiness. We don't know if they're friendly." Similar scenes played out in capitals around the world. From Beijing to Berlin, from Washington to Moscow, leaders grappled with an unprecedented situation. The United Nations Security Council convened an emergency session, trying to coordinate a global response. As night fell across different time zones, people everywhere looked up at the sky with a mixture of wonder and fear. The strange objects were now clearly visible to the naked eye, their otherworldly glow outshining the stars. In a small town in Kansas, farmer Bob Johnson stood in his field, staring up at the sky. His wife, Mary, stood beside him, clutching his arm. "What do you think it means, Bob?" she whispered. Bob shook his head slowly. I don't know, Mary, but I reckon everything's about to change. Little did Bob know just how right he was, as Earth's first day, under the watch of these mysterious visitors, came to an end. Humanity stood on the brink of the most significant moment in its history. The galactic shadows looming over them were about to change everything they knew about their place in the universe. The world held its breath. It had been 3 days since the strange ships appeared in Earth's skies. People everywhere were scared and confused. No one knew what these visitors wanted. In New York, John Smith sat glued to his TV. He hadn't gone to work since the ships arrived. The streets outside were eerily quiet. Most people stayed indoors, waiting for news. Suddenly, every screen on Earth flickered. TVs, phones, computers, all showed the same thing. A face appeared. It wasn't human. The alien had blue skin and large black eyes. When it spoke, its voice was deep and echoed strangely. People of Earth, the alien said, I am Supreme Commander Zax of the Galactic Empire. Your planet now belongs to us. Surrender peacefully, and you may live as our subjects. Resist, and we will destroy you. The message repeated in every language on Earth. Then the screens went dark. Panic spread across the globe. In India, Priya and her family huddled around their small radio, listening to the government's response. The Prime Minister's voice shook as he urged people to stay calm. In the White House, President Carter paced her office. Her advisors argued loudly about what to do. Some wanted to fight. Others thought surrendering was safer. Quiet, the president shouted. Everyone fell silent. We need to talk to other world leaders. Get me a secure line to the UN. At the United Nations in New York, leaders from around the world met in an emergency session. The room was tense. Everyone had ideas, but no one agreed on what to do. The Russian president stood up. We must fight. He declared, we cannot become slaves to aliens. The Chinese leader shook his head. But how can we fight? Their technology is far beyond ours. As the debate raged on, a young aide rushed into the room. She whispered urgently to the Secretary General. His eyes widened. Ladies and gentlemen, he announced, we've just received word. The aliens have landed. They're demanding to meet with Earth's leaders. Here. Now. A hush fell over the room. Fear and shock were visible on every face. Outside the UN building, a massive ship hovered. It was bigger than any skyscraper, shining with an otherworldly light. A beam of blue energy shot down from the ship to the ground. 3 aliens appeared in the beam. They were tall, at least 7 feet, with blue skin and wearing strange, shimmering suits. They walked towards the UN building. Police and soldiers surrounded them but didn't dare to attack. Inside, world leaders prepared to meet the aliens. President Carter straightened her jacket, trying to look confident. Remember, she told the others, we represent all of humanity now. We must be strong. The doors opened. The aliens entered. Supreme Commander Zax stood in front, his black eyes scanning the room. Greetings, Earth leaders, Zax said. His voice was even more intimidating in person. Have you made your decision? Will you surrender? The Secretary General stepped forward. We have questions, he said, his voice surprisingly steady. Why have you come here? What do you want from us? Zax made a sound that might have been a laugh. Your planet is in a strategic location. We need it for our war against the rebel systems. Your people will serve as labor in our factories and mines. Gasps echoed around the room. The French president spoke up angrily. And if we refuse? Zax's eyes narrowed. Then we will take your world by force. You have no weapons that can harm us. Resistance would only lead to unnecessary deaths. President Carter took a deep breath. She thought of John in New York, Priya in India, and billions of others around the world. Their fate rested on what happened in this room. We need time, she said firmly. This decision affects our entire species. We cannot make it lightly or quickly. Zack stared at her for a long moment. The room was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Finally, he nodded. "You have 24 hours, he said. "Choose wisely." With that, the aliens turned and left. As soon as the doors closed behind them, the room erupted into chaos. Arguments broke out everywhere. The clock was ticking. Earth had one day to decide its fate. In homes around the world, people waited anxiously. Would their leaders find a way to save them? Or was this the end of human freedom? The next 24 hours would determine the future of humanity. While world leaders argued at the UN, a small group of scientists worked frantically in a hidden lab deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. They had been here for years, unknown to the public, working on a top-secret project. Dr. Emily Chung, the lead scientist, hadn't slept in days. Her eyes were red, her hair messy. But she didn't care about her appearance. She only cared about finishing their work. "How close are we, James?" she asked her colleague. Dr. James Wilson looked up from his computer. "We're almost there, Emily. The simulations are promising. But we need more time." Emily slammed her fist on the table. "We don't have more time. The aliens gave us 24 hours. We have to finish now." Suddenly, alarms blared. Red lights flashed. The scientists looked around in panic. "What's happening?" James yelled over the noise. A voice came over the speakers. "This is General Rodriguez. We've been discovered. Alien ships are approaching. You have 10 minutes to evacuate." Emily's heart raced. She turned to her team. "Keep working. We can't lose everything now." The scientists typed furiously, trying to save their research. Emily ran to a large machine in the center of the lab. It looked like a mix between a satellite dish and a giant ray gun. She pressed buttons, pulled levers. The machine hummed to life. "Emily, what are you doing?" James asked, fear in his voice. "Saving humanity," she replied, her voice determined. Meanwhile, at the UN, things weren't going well. Leaders couldn't agree on what to do. Some wanted to fight. Others were ready to surrender. President Carter stood up. "We can't give up our freedom without a fight. But how can we possibly win against their advanced technology?" Just then, her phone buzzed. She looked at it, her eyes widening. "Excuse me," she said, rushing out of the room. In a private office, she answered the call. "General Rodriguez, report." "Madam President, the alien ships found our secret lab. But Dr. Chung, she did something. The aliens, they're gone." President Carter couldn't believe her ears. "Gone? What do you mean, gone?" "Their ships just disappeared. We don't know how, but it seems Dr. Chang's device worked." The president's mind raced. This could change everything. She hurried back to the meeting room. "Ladies and gentlemen," she announced, "I have important news." All eyes turned to her as she explained about the secret lab and Dr. Chang's mysterious device. The room erupted in excited chatter. Hope spread across faces that had been grim just moments before. The British Prime Minister spoke up. "If this is true, we might have a chance. But we need proof." President Carter nodded. "You're right. We need to see this device for ourselves." Within hours, a team of world leaders and top scientists were on their way to the secret lab. When they arrived, they found Dr. Chang and her team, tired but triumphant. Emily stood next to her machine, ready to explain. "This device," she said, "can create localized wormholes. We used it to send the alien ships far away, to the other side of the galaxy." The scientists in the group gasped. This technology was beyond anything they had imagined. "Can it be used again?" the Russian president asked. Emily nodded. "Yes, but it needs time to recharge, and we can only target ships in Earth's orbit or nearby space." The leaders huddled together, discussing in hushed tones. Finally, President Carter turned to Emily. "Dr. Chang, your invention might save humanity, but we need to know everything about it. Can you make more?" Emily smiled for the first time in days. "With proper funding and support, yes. We can build a network of these devices around the world. The mood in the room shifted. For the first time since the aliens arrived, there was real hope. President Carter addressed the group. We have a chance now. But we must act quickly and carefully. The aliens don't know about this weapon. We can use that to our advantage. As the leaders began to plan, Emily looked at her team. They were exhausted, but their eyes shone with pride. They had created humanity's secret weapon. Now, it was up to the world's leaders to use it wisely. The next few hours would be crucial. Earth had a fighting chance, but the Galactic Empire was still a formidable enemy. The real test was yet to come. The clock was ticking. Earth's 24-hour deadline was almost up. In the White House Situation Room, President Carter and her team were finalizing their plan. "Are we sure about this?" asked the Secretary of Defense, his face lined with worry. President Carter nodded firmly. "It's our best chance. We can't build enough of Dr. Chang's devices in time to defend the whole planet, but we can make them believe we can." On the other side of the world, in Beijing, the Chinese president was addressing his military leaders. "Our American friends have shared their plan. It's risky, but it's our only hope. Prepare our forces, but do not attack unless I give the order." Similar scenes played out in capitals across the globe. For once, the whole world was united in a single daring plan. As the deadline approached, the alien ships reappeared in Earth's skies. People everywhere looked up in fear, wondering what would happen next. In New York, John Smith watched from his apartment window as a massive alien ship hovered over the city. He whispered a prayer, hoping the world's leaders knew what they were doing. In her village in India, Priya and her family huddled around their old TV. The Indian Prime Minister was about to address the nation. "My fellow citizens," he said, his voice strong and clear, "do not be afraid. We are stronger than we know." At exactly 24 hours after their ultimatum, the aliens sent another message. Supreme Commander Zax's face appeared on screens worldwide. "People of Earth," he boomed, "your time is up. What is your decision?" In the UN building, world leaders gathered once more. This time, they stood united. President Carter stepped forward to speak for Earth. "Supreme Commander," she said, her voice steady, "we reject your ultimatum. Earth will not surrender." Zax's alien features twisted in what might have been surprise or anger. "You dare to defy the Galactic Empire. You have no weapons that can harm us." President Carter allowed herself a small smile. "Are you so sure about that, Commander?" She nodded to someone off-screen. Suddenly, the image changed. It showed Dr. Chang's device in action, creating a swirling portal that swallowed up an alien ship. "This is only one of thousands of such devices we have placed around our planet," President Carter lied smoothly. "We can send your entire fleet to the farthest corners of the galaxy with the push of a button." The alien commander's eyes widened. For a moment, he was speechless. President Carter continued, her confidence growing. "We don't want war, Commander. We're willing to negotiate for peace. But if you attack, we will defend ourselves." The screen went blank. The leaders in the room held their breath, waiting. Minutes ticked by. The tension was unbearable. Had their bluff worked? Suddenly, alarms blared. Reports flooded in from around the world. The alien ships were moving. In the Situation Room, the Joint Chiefs of Staff watched their monitors anxiously. "Madam President," one general said, "the alien fleet is retreating. They're leaving Earth's orbit." A cheer went up in the room. President Carter closed her eyes, relief washing over her. Their desperate gamble had paid off. But the celebration was short-lived. "Wait," said the Secretary of State. "One ship is staying behind. They're sending a message." Commander Zax's face appeared once more. He looked less confident now, but still dangerous. "Humans," he said, "you have surprised us. We will withdraw for now to reassess. But do not think this is over. The Galactic Empire does not forgive defiance easily. We will be watching." With that, The last ship vanished into the depths of space. In homes and streets around the world, people erupted in joy. Strangers hugged each other, crying and laughing. Humanity had stood up to the Galactic Empire and won. But in the halls of power, leaders knew the truth. They had bought time, but the danger wasn't over. They had to prepare for the Empire's return. In her lab, Dr. Chang and her team were already hard at work. "We need to make this real," she told her colleagues. "Next time, we need to have more than just one working device." As night fell, Earth celebrated its victory. But in secret labs and government offices, the real work was just beginning. The Galactic Empire would return, and next time, humanity needed to be truly ready. Far away in the depths of space, Supreme Commander Zack stood before the Galactic Council. The Grand Chamber was filled with beings from 100 different worlds, all part of the mighty Empire. But today, the mood was tense. "You retreated," growled a reptilian counselor. "From a primitive world." Zax's blue skin darkened with embarrassment. "They have technology we've never seen before, weapons that could threaten our entire fleet." Murmurs of disbelief rippled through the chamber. A tall, silvery being stood up. "Impossible. Our spies reported no such weapons on Earth." "I saw it with my own eyes," Zax insisted. "They opened wormholes, swallowing our ships." The Emperor, a being of pure energy contained in an ornate suit, spoke. His voice echoed with power. "We must know the truth. Send spies to Earth. Learn everything about this new weapon." Back on Earth, months had passed since the alien retreat. Life was slowly returning to normal, but everything had changed. In New York, John Smith walked to work, looking up at the sky. No alien ships today, but everyone knew they could return at any time. The city buzzed with construction as new defense systems were built. In her Indian village, Priya was in school, but instead of just math and history, she was learning about space and alien cultures. Every child on Earth was being prepared for a future among the stars. At the United Nations, now called the Earth Defense Council, leaders from around the world met regularly. Today, they were hearing a report from Dr. Emily Chang. "We've made progress," Emily said, pointing to a map covered with blinking lights. "We now have 50 working wormhole devices around the world." President Carter nodded approvingly. "Good work, Doctor. But will it be enough?" Before Emily could answer, alarms blared. General Rodriguez burst into the room. "Madam President, we've detected an alien ship entering Earth's atmosphere." Everyone froze. Was this the Empire returning? "Where is it heading?" President Carter asked, her voice tense. "It's small, possibly a scout ship," the general replied. "It's landing in the Sahara Desert." President Carter turned to the council. "We can't let them discover the truth about our defenses. Dr. Chang, is the nearest device ready?" Emily checked her tablet. "Yes, but we've never tested it on a landed ship. I'm not sure what will happen." "We have no choice," the president said grimly. "Activate it." In the scorching heat of the Sahara, the alien scout ship had just touched down. Two figures in shimmering suits stepped out, looking around cautiously. "See anything, Zork?" one asked. "Nothing but sand, blurg," the other replied. "Are we sure this is where the humans are hiding their weapon?" Suddenly, the air in front of them began to shimmer and swirl. A wormhole was opening. "Blurg, get back to the ship," Zork yelled. But it was too late. The wormhole expanded rapidly, engulfing their ship. Zork and Blur watched in horror as their only way home vanished into the swirling vortex. Then, as quickly as it appeared, the wormhole closed. The two alien spies were left standing alone in the vast desert. Blur turned to Zork, panic in his eyes. "What do we do now?" Zork looked around helplessly. I don't know. We're stranded on an alien world, Blurg. A world that can make our ships disappear at will." As the alien spies began their long walk across the desert, news of the encounter spread rapidly through Earth's defense network. In her lab, Emily stared at the data in disbelief. It worked. We actually sent their ship across the galaxy. But her excitement was short-lived. An alert popped up on her screen. "Oh no," she whispered. In the Earth Defense Council chamber, President Carter received the news. The wormhole device in the Sahara had burnt out. Creating a wormhole strong enough to move a landed ship had pushed it beyond its limits. The president's face was grim as she addressed the council. "We've won this battle, but at a cost. We're down to 49 devices now, and the aliens know we can target landed ships." She paused, looking each council member in the eye. "Our bluff is working for now, but we're running out of time. We need to be ready before the Empire realizes the truth and returns in full force." As the council debated their next move, two confused and frightened alien spies trudged across the Sahara, witnesses to Earth's power and now inadvertent guests on the planet they had come to conquer. The stakes had been raised. The next move would be crucial for both Earth and the Galactic Empire. The Galactic Empire was in turmoil. Weeks had passed since their spies disappeared on Earth. The Emperor paced in his chamber, his energy form flickering with agitation. "We cannot allow this insult to stand," he declared to his advisors. "Prepare a strike force. We will test these humans' defenses ourselves." On Earth, life had settled into a new normal. In New York, John Smith was enjoying a day off in Central Park. He looked up at the sky, marveling at how blue it was. No alien ships had been seen for months. Suddenly, his phone buzzed with an alert. "Alien ship pieces, DTECTE. Stay calm. And FOLODO emergency procedures." John's heart raced. This wasn't a drill. The Empire was back. In her village in India, Priya was in the middle of a lesson when the alarm sounded. Her teacher quickly guided the class to an underground shelter. As they huddled together, Priya thought of the brave scientists and leaders working to protect them. At the Earth Defense Council headquarters, it was chaos. President Carter strode into the command center, her face set with determination. "Report," she demanded. General Rodriguez pointed to a large screen. "A fleet of alien ships just entered our solar system. They're heading straight for Earth." Dr. Emily Chang rushed in, out of breath. "Madam President, our wormhole devices are ready, but we only have enough power to target a few ships at a time." President Carter nodded grimly. "Then we'll have to make each shot count. Prepare to engage the enemy." High above Earth, the Imperial fleet approached. Commander Zack stood on the bridge of the lead ship, his eyes fixed on the blue planet below. "No sign of their defenses yet," an officer reported. Zack narrowed his eyes. "They're waiting for us to get closer. Clever, but not clever enough. Launch the first wave." A group of smaller ships detached from the fleet, racing towards Earth. As they entered the atmosphere, the humans made their move. In secret bases around the world, technicians activated the wormhole devices. Swirling portals opened in the sky, swallowing alien ships one by one. On his ship, Zax watched in disbelief as his first wave vanished. "Impossible," he roared. "All ships, attack now." The sky above Earth lit up with energy beams as the full Imperial fleet opened fire. But for every shot they fired, another ship disappeared into a wormhole. In the command center, President Carter watched the battle unfold. "How are we doing?" she asked tensely. Dr. Chang checked her monitors. "We've taken out half their fleet, but our devices are overheating. We can't keep this up much longer." The president's mind raced. They needed a new strategy. Fast. Just then, a junior officer spoke up. "Madam President, I have an idea. What if we target their command ship?" All eyes turned to the young man. He swallowed nervously but continued. "If we can capture their leader, maybe we can end this without destroying their whole fleet." President Carter's eyes lit up. "That's brilliant. Dr. Chung, can we do it?" Emily nodded slowly. "It's risky, but yes. We'll need to use all our remaining power for one massive wormhole." Do it, the president ordered. On the Imperial command ship, Zax was growing desperate. Half his fleet was gone, and Earth's defenses seemed unstoppable. Suddenly, a massive wormhole opened right in front of his ship. It was far larger than any they'd seen before. Evasive maneuvers, Zax screamed. But it was too late. The wormhole engulfed the entire command ship. In a flash, Zax found his ship hovering just above Earth's surface, surrounded by human military forces. A voice crackled over their communication system. It was President Carter. "Imperial Commander, your invasion has failed. Surrender now, or we'll send you so far across the universe, you'll never find your way back." Zax looked at his officers, saw the defeat in their eyes. With a heavy heart, he gave the order. "All ships stand down. We surrender." Around the world, humans erupted in cheers. They had stood against the mighty Galactic Empire and won. But in the Earth Defense Council chamber, President Carter's face remained serious. They had won the battle. But the war was far from over. As she prepared to meet the captured alien commander, she knew that humanity's greatest challenge was just beginning. The age of Earth as a galactic power had dawned. But would they be able to keep the peace they had so bravely won? 1 year had passed since Earth's victory over the Galactic Empire. The planet was buzzing with activity, preparing for a historic event. In New York, John Smith adjusted his tie nervously. He had been chosen as one of Earth's representatives to attend the first Galactic Peace Conference. As he boarded the shuttle that would take him to the newly built space station, he couldn't believe how much had changed. Meanwhile, in her village in India, Priya watched the launch on a large screen set up in the town square. Her eyes shone with excitement. "One day," she told her friends, "I'm going to be up there too." On the space station, delegates from Earth mingled with representatives from 100 alien worlds. Some had been part of the Empire. Others had been its victims. All were here to shape the future of the galaxy. President Carter stood at the podium, ready to address the assembly. Beside her stood Dr. Emily Chang, now hailed as one of Earth's greatest heroes. "Friends, allies, and fellow galactic citizens," President Carter began. "A year ago, we were strangers, divided by fear and misunderstanding. Today, we come together as equals, ready to build a new future." She gestured to Dr. Chang. "Earth's wormhole technology, which we once used as a weapon, will now be a tool for peace. It will connect our worlds, allowing us to share knowledge, culture, and resources." Emily stepped forward, her voice strong and clear. "We've adapted our devices to create stable, permanent wormholes. These will serve as gateways between our worlds, ushering in a new era of galactic cooperation." In the audience, former Supreme Commander Zax listened intently. After his capture, he had surprised everyone by becoming one of the strongest advocates for peace. He stood up to speak. "As the former leader of the Empire's forces, I know the cost of war all too well," Zax said. "Earth showed us a better way. They could have destroyed us, but they chose peace. We must learn from their example." The assembly murmured in agreement. It was a powerful moment, seeing the former enemy now calling for unity. As the conference continued, delegates worked tirelessly to draft a new galactic charter. Earth's leaders, once focused only on their own planet, now found themselves helping to shape the laws that would govern civilizations across the stars. John Smith, sitting in on one of the committee meetings, was amazed at how quickly humans and aliens were learning to work together. Despite their differences, they all shared a common hope for a peaceful future. Back on Earth, the changes were becoming visible. In major cities, alien visitors were becoming a common sight. Priya's village had been chosen as the site for a new academic institute, where humans and aliens would study together. As the Galactic Peace Conference neared its end, President Carter prepared to sign the new charter. But first, she had a surprise announcement. "To symbolize our commitment to this new era, Earth will be hosting an exchange program," she declared. "We invite young people from every world to come study on Earth, and we'll send our own youth to learn on your planets." The assembly erupted in applause. It was a bold move, one that would change countless lives. Priya, watching from her village, felt her heart race with excitement. This was her chance. She vowed to work hard and earn a spot in the exchange program. As the final signatures were added to the Galactic Charter, a new age dawned. The former empire was transformed into a galactic alliance, with Earth playing a central role. John Smith, walking back to his quarters on the space station, paused to look out a window. The Earth shone like a blue jewel against the backdrop of stars. But now, those stars didn't seem so distant or mysterious. They were filled with new friends and endless possibilities. On the other side of the galaxy, on a world that had once been part of the Empire, a family gathered to watch the signing ceremony. Their child, born during the war, looked up at them curiously. "What does it mean, Papa?" the child asked. The parent smiled, pointing to the image of Earth on their screen. "It means, little one, that we're not alone anymore. It means hope." As news of the Galactic Charter spread across the universe, countless beings on countless worlds looked up at their skies with new eyes. The age of isolation was over. A new chapter in galactic history had begun, and Earth was helping to write it. The future was bright, full of challenges and opportunities, and humanity, having faced its greatest test, was ready to take its place among the stars.